From the future, I feel wonderful. Every time I talk about Jesus, I feel good, good, good. I feel good, good, good. I feel real wonderful. Every time I talk about Jesus, I feel good, good, good. I feel good, good, good. I feel good, wonderful. Every time I talk about Jesus, I feel good. Stand up, please, as we welcome Sister Nicole to give us what the Lord Jesus Christ has put in her heart to say unto us this morning. God bless you in Jesus' name.
Praise the Lord this morning.
Hallelujah.
Praise the Lord this morning.
Hallelujah.
God is great and greatly to be praised, and His name is Jesus.
Yes.
I'm so grateful to be in the house this morning. So grateful to be in the house this morning. Thanking the Lord for another day, for truly it is only by His mercies that we're here. It's only by His mercies that we're not consumed. It's only by His grace that we've had another chance to come into His presence with thanksgiving and into His courts with praise. So we give Him thanks this morning. We give Him praise for truly, truly He is good. We're going to, since you're all standing, we're going to read this morning in John chapter 4. John chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. In this passage that we read this morning, we see Christ taking a journey. We see Him taking a trip through Samaria. He was in a certain location. He left Judea and He wanted to get to Galilee. And so to continue His journey, He went through Samaria. Now, if you understand anything about the geography, Samaria was right between Judea and Galilee. It was right in the middle, but the Jews, being as they were, being led by tradition and not being wanting to be defiled by the Samaritans, they made a point to go all the way around Samaria to get to their destination. Because you see that people that were living in Samaria, they were Samaritans and they were hybrids. They were descendants of Jews and other people who had intermixed. And so the Jews didn't want to be defiled by them. They didn't want to be touched or defiled by their ways. So they made it a point to go out of their way, to go all around. And it was took a lot longer to go all the way around Samaria instead of just going through. But they were so driven by the tradition and so driven by the fact that they wanted nothing to do with these Samaritans that they went out of their way to go all the way around to continue their journey. For the Jews, there was never a good reason to go through Samaria. Right. Because it was desirable. It was nothing there for them, nothing there that they wanted to be a part of or behold or wanted people to see. They never wanted any other Jews or anyone else to see them walking through Samaria. Right. Kind of reminds me when I was in university. I went to university and went to school on top of a hill in Pennsylvania. When you come off the highway, the school had placed all these signs directing you to get to school, but how they did it is they took you all the way around the other side of the mountain. They took you all the way through the cute little quaint towns and where you see all the little shops and the ice cream places and the little houses with the white picket fence. They took you all the way around, a good 10 minutes out of your way to get to the school. Why is that? Because Bethlehem, the area where the school was, downtown Bethlehem, wasn't so nice. It wasn't cute, it wasn't quaint, it was run down. And yes, it had this big university that had lots of money coming in, but the city itself was so destitute and distraught and broken down. There were abandoned houses and places that just weren't desirable for families coming in to look to send their children off for 4 years. So the university had plotted this big plot to, as soon as people come off the highway, to take them through the most desirable places. But it's something that struck me. I went back to visit not too long ago, and something struck me. Here you have this university with so many resources, all these students willing to do good. Instead of avoiding this place where you are, for you're living in the same places, your people you're sharing the same city with, why not invest in the people? Why not help them out? Why not, take some of these resources that you have and build a partnership to improve the area instead? And that's sort of what the Jews did. Instead of investing in Samaria, instead of helping, because they were their brothers in a sense, they were their neighbors, but instead of investing time in the Samaritans and helping them, encouraging them, they avoided them. They wanted nothing to do with them. It wasn't worth their time to invest any energy in Samaria. And I wonder how many of us sometimes do that. We see our situations and we sometimes go out of our way to avoid a situation, to avoid certain people so that we don't have to get involved. We don't have to be defiled by the situation. Instead, why not go and help them in their situation? Why not help them and invest in them for all our brothers and sisters? We don't always think that way, but all souls belong to Christ. Therefore, that makes every man my brother, and that gives me a responsibility to help them. So I'm so glad that Christ wasn't guided by tradition, because instead he knew that there was a need. And so it didn't matter to him that Samaria was an undesirable part of town, if you will. It didn't matter to him that the Samaritans were a people who were cast out, who were outcast according to the Jews, and that the Jews should have nothing to do with them. It didn't matter to Christ because he knew that there was a need. And so he had a need to go through Samaria. He had a need to go through Samaria because he knew that there was a woman who needed help. You see, this woman was also outcast. You know, it wasn't bad enough to be Samaritan, because as a Samaritan, you're outcast already. But even the Samaritans didn't want to associate with this woman. Even the Samaritans, even her own people, dissociated themselves with her. Even her own kind wanted absolutely nothing to do with her. And she knew it. She knew she was outcast. She knew that she was set aside, that she was on the fringes of society, if you will. Which is why when we see her, she's drawing water in the middle of the day, in the heat of the day, when the sun is, that Middle Eastern sun is beating down on her. She would rather deal with heat stroke than to deal with the scorns and the stares and the women that were there. For you see, it was tradition in that day for the women to come in the morning. Before the sun grew hot, it was tradition for them to come out in the morning and to draw the water that they needed to feed their sheep and to wash and to do whatever it is. And the well was sort of like the modern day water cooler, if you will, where people would come and they would talk. You know, talk about the latest news, talk about whatever was going on in the city, talk about whatever was happening in their day and age. And so this was a time when all the women would gather together. And it was a social spot. Not only was it a time of fulfilling their needs and getting the water that they need to drink, but it was also served as a social square, if you will, where people can come and talk. And no doubt this woman had been a topic of conversation more than once. No doubt this woman had been the topic of their gossiping and their bantering back and forth. So much so that she wanted nothing to do with that. She stayed away as far as possible so that she waited until the very middle of the day when the sun was beating hot to come to draw the well that she needed to drink. Now, on this particular day, there was something different that was waiting for her at the well. For there was this man, this Jew that she saw at the well, and not someone that she had known, not someone that she knew, but something was different about this man. For first of all, you have to understand the context. You know, she's a Samaritan, and she's a woman. And she's a woman that no one wants, not even her own people, associate with. So imagine, if you will, take a step in her shoes, if you will, and imagine the downtroddenness in her heart. Imagine, you know, have you ever been in a situation where you were the outcast? Have you ever been in a situation where people shunned away from you? People wanted nothing to do with you. When you walk in a room and you can feel people's eyes beating down on you. You can feel their, hear their whispers, and you know that they're talking about you. Have you ever been in a situation when you are just no one to rely on, no allies to come to your defense? So no doubt when she approached the well and saw this man, she was not in a desire to talk. She probably just wanted to saw this man. You can just imagine the thoughts that are going through her mind at this time. You know, let me just go to the well. Let me just get my water that I need. Let me just hurry up and leave, because I don't know who this man is. Lord knows where he's coming from. I just want to get my water, just get what I need and leave. But there was something greater that was waiting for her in that day. There was something that she couldn't have even fathomed that waited for her at the well that day. She was trapped by her situation, but she was about to meet deliverance on that day.